From despair to hope, how a council is promoting unity, safety, and achievement when we return. For 40 years, Council for Unity has tackled issues like gang violence and intolerance through education. Here to tell us how they've done that is the president and founder, Bob Sena. Bob, nice to meet you.
A pleasure to meet you, and thanks for having me.
How long have you been organized?
Since 1975, 45 years.
45 years. How did it come about?
In the most improbable way. During the late 70s, mid-70s, schools in New York City were starting to integrate, and the problem was that children were really not prepared to acclimate to one another. So during this period, a major conflict broke out at John Dewey High School between African Americans and Italians.
Okay.
And the school was in an Italian neighborhood. That conflict spilled over and involved all the other cultures. And it got to a point where the neighborhood and the school were about to come apart. And I was recruited to deal with that issue. So I pulled together all the gang leaders from all the different cultural and racial groups. They hated each other, had a history of violence, but they agreed to work with me for a year. And during the course of that year, a miracle happened. They transformed into a band of brothers and realized that as long as they were together, they were safe. You bring everybody together, there's nobody left to fight. And the other issue, which all of them had to deal with, as well as their followers, was racism, hatred of cultures, which does more psychological damage than physical damage.
Right. And
so you bring everybody together, there's nobody left to make fun of. So when you talk about really core needs, bringing this group together changed everything. And they kind of made a commitment that if this could work for them, maybe they could have a legacy, and maybe it could work for other kids in other communities. And that's basically how the Council for Unity began. But it began out of gang violence.
So this was the 70s, early 70s?
1975.
75. So you were a young man, you know, then,
yeah.
You know, like, no, and no disrespect now, but I'm just saying, how in the world do you say, and you're probably like in your 20s at that time, what am I going to do here? You know, how did you even begin to approach, you know, I'm going to take this leader, and I'm going to sit these two down, you know, without yourself possibly being hurt or something, you know, just knowing the history between the groups?
Well, my background was probably a lot worse than theirs. Somebody saved me at a point when I could have really gotten myself into prison pretty easily.
Okay.
So I had and he died, which had a profound effect on me. And the one thing he wanted from me was to escape the neighborhood and do something with my life, and then come back and reclaim young people like my friends, all of whom ended up either on drugs, dead, or in jail. So my basic communication to them was, I'm here to pay a debt. I got a second chance, and I'm here to offer you the same thing. And I had some connections in the neighborhood from my past, and those gang members knew it. So I had a lot of credibility in the street, and for whatever reason, you know, I'm a great believer in destiny. It should have never worked. I mean, if someone approaches me and says, I got a great idea. Why don't you get all these leaders who hate each other, they're all racists, and why don't you bring them together and see if they can't find some way out of the pit? I mean, somebody said that to me now, I'd leave. It shouldn't have worked, but it did.
So here we are 45 or so years later, and you all are still in the communities. Just how are you dealing with it? Now, bullying is different now versus then, you know, so how are you tackling that now? Because the schools themselves are trying to figure out how best to get a handle on this. How are you impacting that?
Well, I think we have a very, very unique and innovative curriculum. When you look at traditional classrooms across the country, they're really predicated on promotion and graduation rates. So if you're a child coming in with a lot of holes in you, your needs are not going to be met in a traditional classroom, which in many ways has a lot of kids acting out, There's nothing for me in here. They get involved in self-destructive behavior or they get violent. The council curriculum is predicated on 4 core needs, and we took it right out of our own experience in gang life. The need for family, the need for unity, which brings safety and freedom from discrimination. Maybe the most profound thing, the need for self-esteem. So many of our kids living psychologically in isolation are suffering terribly, and they have self-image issues, and the council elevates them to discover their inner talents, their inner abilities, and we pull it out of them. And the final thing is empowerment. Any school that contracts with Council for Unity is obligated to invite adults in the building to partner with kids to create a safe environment and a positive learning environment. So it's not just about kids. We take every system in a school and literally bring it together. It's what a Council for Unity is supposed to do. Be a microcosm of the demographics where we function. So you've got everybody together, adults, faculty, administrators, non-pedagogical personnel, working with kids, maybe for the first time. And the irony is, it's a democratic model. Usually, you know, policies get handed down and imposed upon, and very few people are ever invited to have an influence in the protocols that affect them. But in council, because everybody is participating, the plans that come out of that to promote safety and to promote unity and to promote achievement, those plans have everybody's fingerprints on it. So the buy-in is systemic and total.
So, Bob, you've been in all 5 boroughs. Have you been contacted?
All through Long Island.
And Long Island. Have you been contacted by any school systems, anybody out of state? Like, have you heard from anybody else asking, help us set up our own Council for Unity? Or?
Well, we're in the process of addressing that. Some of our members are traveling to other states, and they are, it's like, you know, throwing seeds in the wind. Yeah. But I think it's programs like this, because that's our biggest shortcoming. You know, most not-for-profits have limits in terms of their ability to market or to build infrastructure. So marketing, making the public aware of an amazing model. And let me put this in an historical perspective. For 200 years in this country, we have struggled with issues of race and culture. And the only thing we've ever been able to do is to pass laws to kind of force people to get along. And it's really never worked, and it's not working now. In 1975, in a tiny dot on the American landscape, these 6 members made a statement. This problem that's been affecting this country for 200 years stops in this place, not by mandate, but by intention. That is radical and profound, and that should be happening all over the country.
I hope somebody will hear your words and take it to heart. Before you get away from us, you have an event.
Yes, a big one, a big one, yes. We have our Champions for Children's Gala on October 17th at the Harmony Club in Manhattan, and we're honoring some extraordinary people, a police officer, a correctional officer, a gentleman who is doing in the religious community what we're doing, a doctor, and 2 of my board members who are extraordinary people. So it's going to be quite an exciting event.
October the 17th, Thursday. And what's your website, Bob?
Yeah, please, if anybody's in need of a miracle and wants to witness one, it's www.councilforunity.org.
So nice to meet you.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Keep
Thanks
up the
so
fight.
much. Oh, thank you.
Stay right there for 1 second.
Okay, sure.
To learn more about today's topics, everybody, go to our website, fox5ny.com. You can also like us on Facebook as well as follow us on Twitter. For all of us here at Fox 5, I'm Antwan Lewis. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time for more Street Talk. And as always, thank you for the company.